In this video, we'll show you how to replace the oil pressure sender on your Subaru Baja. This is located in the engine bay and right on top of the engine. Let's get started. Now we have three 10mm. We'll go ahead and remove those. Next we have a 12mm. We can go ahead and loosen this up to get this panel off. And we can remove that. To detension this belt and lower the alternator down, we need to turn this bolt down. To do that, we need to loosen the pinch bolt. We can do that with a 12mm. Just have to loosen that up, and then you can go ahead and loosen the belt tensioner. Now that we have the tension off the belt, we can slip that over the alternator pulley, and off the power steering pulley. And finally off the crankshaft pulley. We'll use a 10mm. We can just loosen up the terminal a little bit and set it off to the side. Now we have our alternator terminal. We can remove this with a 12mm. To remove the electrical connector from the alternator, we have a tab on the back side. We're going to press in on that. It can help to push down on the connector while you press in on the tab to get it to release. You want to hold the bracket on the back side that has a captured nut while you remove the bolt, holding the alternator to the bracket. Now we need to remove the lock bolt for the slider. And we can rotate the alternator up and remove it. Now that we have the alternator out of the way, we have our oil pressure sender. To remove the connector, we'll simply pull up on it. You want to check the connector for any corrosion or damage. Using a 24mm socket, we can remove the sensor. We have some leftover thread sealant around where our sensor goes into. We need to clean that off, but I don't want it to fall in the hole here. So I'm just going to use a bolt that is the same thread pitch and size as the sensor. We'll block that off, and then we can clean that without dropping anything down into the motor. You can start to peel up the sealant. Now, in front of where this sensor goes is the crank sensor. I'm just going to cover that with a rag. I'm going to use a little bit of brake and parts cleaner. And we can wipe up the excess oil and sealant. We can remove that bolt. Now we can apply some thread sealant to the threads of the sensor. Don't need too much, just a little bit. And we can get the new sensor threaded in. We can just snug that down. And we can torque this to 18.1 foot-pounds. We can get our connector lined up. Push that down. You're going to make sure that that's fully seated. You can get the alternator lined up on the bracket. You'll need to give it a wiggle to get it to line up with the bolt holes on the bracket. Get that lined up and get the bolt in the bracket. And hold the bracket on the back side with the captured nut. And get the long bolt starting in. You want to leave enough space here that we can get our cover on later. We can get our pinch bolt through our adjustment slider for the alternator and get that started threading into the alternator. Now we can get the terminal back onto the alternator, and we'll reinstall our washer and the nut. We're just going to snug this down, doesn't need to be too tight. We can plug in our electrical connector and make sure that fully bottoms out and locks into place. Now we'll get our belt back over the crankshaft pulley on the alternator and over the power steering pump. Make sure that all of the ribs on each pulley are lined up. And we can start to tension the belt. As you're tightening the belt, you want to occasionally check the tension. You want to turn the belt about 90 degrees. If it's difficult to get it past 90, that's pretty good. That feels good. To lock down the tensioner, we'll tighten down this bolt. Just going to snug that up. We can torque this to 18 foot-pounds. And go ahead and get our belt covers back on. Slide that one onto the alternator bolt. Now we'll tighten up the bolt holding the alternator to the bracket. We can install the other belt cover. Get the bolt in. Get the nut on over here. Now we can run through and tighten down our three 10 millimeters. These don't need to be too tight, they're just holding on the covers. And get the terminal on the battery. Make sure that your 10 millimeter is orientated so that you can tighten it down. And we'll just snug that up. Now that we have everything back together, double check to make sure that both of the belts are on the ribs of all of the pulleys. Start up the vehicle and make sure everything is moving as it should. If so, you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.